Hi team, for our big picture video review this week, I'm going to do something a little bit different because we spent most of the class on Thursday talking through that little fun little quiz and possibilities, and really didn't do much on promotion at all. So what I have done is I have created that quiz in Canvas. So you should now be able to find it if you go over onto quizzes. Should now be available, and there's a quiz called PRT 3211 Practice. Okay. I should tell you, I took a lot of your feedback and kind of adjusted some of these questions, so hopefully they're not as confusing. So what I am going to do, and I'm hoping you will do it with me as you do this, is I'm going to take this quiz and walk you through the answers. I was really hoping Canvas would let me just give kind of audio feedback on each one so that you could take it and then click on the feedback, but it won't seem to let me do that. At least I can't figure it out. So we're going to take it together. So here we go. Take the quiz. I skipped over the directions, but I should say here that you are looking for the best answer. There may be multiple possible answers. There may be multiple answers that are even correct. So what I want you to do is look for the best possible answer. Okay. Question 1, which of the following is the best description of the purpose of marketing? And I'm going to read and pause so that you can answer. So our first option is convince customers to buy our products. And I've added this by any means necessary. We don't want that. Yes, we want our customers to buy our products, but we are out of this kind of sales era where we're talking about just kind of manipulating our customer into buying our product. Answer C is a pretty good possibility. Effectively communicate our message to customers. We do want to effectively communicate, but I think the best answer here is satisfy the needs of our customers. And this is a little bit of my bias too in terms of what marketing should be. Marketing is ultimately about being helpful and meeting the needs of our customers. So yes, there is a communication angle or element to that, but that is not all marketing is. There is a product element and a price element. And there is just simply meeting the needs of our customers. So satisfy the needs of our customers is our best answer. Okay, you work for the front climbing gym and are doing a situation assessment. Which of the following would be a relevant piece of information related to the company assessment? So this is one of those 4 C's. So company, customer, competition, climate. And I'm asking a company question here. So really what I'm getting at here is just to kind of remind you that there are different ways of looking at that. So option number 1, your primary direct competition is momentum climbing. Relevant information in a situation assignment, yes, but that's not about your company. Climbing is a popular activity in Salt Lake City. Good information. That may come out of a needs assessment. That may be a social cultural item. It's not a company item. The front was founded in 1957. That is a company item, so that is our correct answer. And there is a consumer demand for youth climbing programs. Again, relevant needs assessment type data, not what this question is asking. Question number 3, and I've actually decided the best way to do this is not to pause before each question, but what I hope you'll do is answer all of the questions in advance and then walk through them on this video with me. You work for a therapeutic rec program that creates social programs for young adults with intellectual disabilities. Which of the following would be a SMART objective? So, SMART: specific, measurable, actionable, or attainable. I've heard it said both ways. Realistic and time-bound. And as I've told you, the keys to me are the M, measurable, and the T, time-bound. Those are the ones that people tend to miss. So participants will meet new friends. That's a good goal. There is nothing in the way that is written that is measurable or time-bound. You could rewrite it, and we will look at that. Participants will have fun. Again, similar to the above. Good goal, but there is nothing, at least in the way that it is written, that is measurable or time-bound. Participants will meet at least 10 new people. Okay, we've got a measurable component now, meeting at least 10 new people, but there's no time in it, so we're getting closer. And then participants will meet at least one new person each week. Bam, we have a measurable component, meet at least one new person, and a time bound each week. So that is our answer. Question 4, you work for CrossFit Gym. Which of the following would be a direct competitor? Let's go bottom up. Utah Jazz games. Indirect competitor, yes, you're competing for people's time and leisure activity, not a direct competitor. Thunder Alley Water Park and AMC Bowling Alley, I would say the exact same thing. Indirect competitors competing for leisure time, but not direct competitors. Remember, direct competitors are doing the exact same thing or very close to the exact same thing as you are doing. So that leaves us with Planet Fitness. You could make an argument that Planet Fitness is indirect because it's not exactly like CrossFit. I think they are both in the fitness business, so I would call that a direct competitor. Okay. You work for Solitude Ski Resort. Which of the following would be a relevant statement in a climate assessment? So again, our 4 C's. And remember, when we talk about climate, we have another acronym, which is PEST: political and legal, economic, social, and cultural, and technological. Solitude receives an average of 500 inches of snow a year. This is relevant information, and it may be important for you to look at the climate and the weather sense. That may be very relevant information here for you. What I want you to get out here is that climate has a bigger meaning than just in the weather sense. Okay. The average January temperature at Solitude is 23 degrees. That's not correct for the same reason the above is not correct. That's just talking about weather. There is a considerable political opposition to ski link, a ski lift, sorry about the typo, connecting Solitude to Kansas and Park City. This is your answer. This would go, if we look at past, this is a political item that is relevant to your company. And then climbing is a popular activity in Salt Lake City. You could make an argument that this is a social element of the climate, and I would buy that, I guess, but I was really thinking of that as more of a needs assessment type data. Okay, so we're going to go with C. You work for the Utah Grizzlies, which is their local semi-pro hockey team, and are conducting a SWOT analysis. Which of the following would be a good example of an opportunity? As a reminder, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We seem to remember that pretty easily. Strengths and weaknesses are internal items specific to your company. Opportunities and threats are outside your company. Opportunities or threats are things you cannot control, which is another way to think about those. Okay, the arena has an outstanding array of concession choices. This is relevant. This is a strength. This is internal. I'm going to skip number 2. Road construction will make it difficult to get to the arena. Again, relevant. This is a threat. This is external. You cannot control that. The Utah Jazz are having a great season, and sorry, I made another little typo there. I'll try to fix this on the actual quiz. The Utah Jazz are having a great season. I would consider that most likely a threat because you can't control that. They're going to take away your fans. So going up to what you've now figured out is the right answer. There is a large untapped market of LGBT hockey fans in Salt Lake City. So you can't control that they're hockey fans necessarily. You can convince them a bit. But this is an opportunity for you. As I mentioned in class, I had a bit of an agenda in this question as well. One, I happen to know this is the case, at least in Washington, D.C., that there's a large LGBT community of hockey fans. And I know a lot of you kind of laughed a bit when I said that, but I want you to think past your stereotypes, first of all. And part of how we do that is we actually look at the data and we actually look at things that are going on. And sometimes those are things that surprise you. So do not rest on your assumptions and your stereotypes. Question 7, you are conducting a needs assessment for a youth after-school program in Salt Lake City. Which of the following would be a good source of data? So what we want to think about here is, remember, there are 3 types of organizational purposes which relate to what kind of needs assessment data you are collecting. Those are entrepreneurial. If your purpose is entrepreneurial, that means you want to make money. Therefore, you are conducting a needs assessment to determine demand, and demand at what price. So what are people willing to pay for? Similar to that is a leisure preferences assessment. Here you're starting with the assumption that leisure is good for people. You're going to offer leisure, and within that you want to know what people want to do, what they prefer, what they demand. The third one, which is a little different, is human services. In this case, you want to meet people's social and developmental needs. You want to meet needs of community, friendship, learning to lose, those types of things. So with that in mind, let's look at our options. Government data on poverty rates in Salt Lake City. This relates to human development. If poverty is an issue, an after-school program can help address some of that, or at least help give some developmental assets to youth that they might not otherwise be getting. A post-program evaluation questionnaire for participants. Very simply, this is really assessing demand and preferences, so we know that one is. A textbook on youth development. This is a little outside the box, but this is very much a human services type needs assessment. Knowing what kind of skills and assets and characteristics youth need at certain ages of development is certainly relevant to your human services type assessment. And then a focus group with local residents. Again, this is more assessing demand, which is, I think, the ones we're a little more comfortable with. So our exam answer is all of the above. Question 8, you have 5 years of data on participation rates in youth sport programs and academic grades. You run a correlation and find a correlation of 0.8. What does this tell you? So, as a refresher, correlations, if they're positive, they mean that things move in the same direction together. So they move up or down together. Okay. If there's negative, that means they move in opposite directions together. So one moves up, one moves down, or vice versa. Okay, so hopefully you don't answer A, you have no clue what this means. As participation in youth sports decreases, academic grades go up. So in this case, they are moving in opposite directions, so it should be negative. Ours is positive, so we know that's not the answer. As participation in youth sport increases, academic grades go up. They move in the same direction. This is a correct answer. However, let's keep going here. As academic grades go up, participation in youth sport increases. This is again saying the same thing, just a different order. They are both going up. So this is also correct. So our answer is C and D. C or D. Both could be correct. And the reason I point this out is there's nothing in a correlation that tells us what causes one or the other. We make that assessment using our logic, and I can make a logical case for either of those answers. Question 9, based on information in the last question, as a marketer, what do you think would be the best course of action? So you've determined that there's a correlation with youth sport and academic grades going up. That is a good thing. We want more people to participate. How do we do that? Reduce the youth sport program from 5 days a week to 2 days a week. Too much participation is hurting student grades. Our data tells us this is not the case, so this is not a good answer. Reduce the price of your youth sport program so that more people can participate. This is a price decision. Jumping ahead a little bit, this would be potentially a penetration strategy. Remember, we use penetration pricing strategies when we want to increase participation. So that sounds like that could be a good answer. I'm going to flag it for now. Movie program in school buildings so that students associate sport with school. We've already determined that as participation increases, grades are going up, so I don't think we even really need to do this, and I'm not even really sure that would work. And finally, run a promotion encouraging students to study more. Not a bad idea, but really has nothing to do with our data. So I'm going to leave it. I think of these answers, the best answer, and again, there are other possibilities, but the best answer is reduce the price of your youth sport programs so that more people can participate. With that, I'm going to stop this video. I'm about to run into my YouTube limit, and we will do a part 2 momentarily.